So
you
you
know,
went your whole, how old are you now, if I can ask? Is that okay?
I'm 57.
You're 57. So you went that long until this past year without knowing.
Until 2 months ago.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Ticking Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette syndrome. In today's video, I have a super special guest. You guys are about to meet Mike, also known as Squirrels Wear Fur. All of his social media handles are linked in the description down below, and I would highly encourage you to follow along with his journey. Go follow all of his socials because he is amazing. His story is so unique and captivating. He does also have Tourette's, if you guys are wondering why I'm talking about him. He's had Tourette's his whole life. He was technically diagnosed at 12, but get this, no one told him until he was 57. He's gone all that time without knowing. And so recently he found out he has Tourette's, and he is now on his journey of advocating and educating about Tourette syndrome, and I'm so honored to have him on my channel. So without further ado, let's go meet Mike. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you very much. My name's Mike. I've got I've just started a channel on TikTok called Squirrels Wear Fur, and I've also got a YouTube channel with the same name, Squirrels Wear Fur. I'm from the UK.
Awesome. So is it okay if I call you Mike?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Mike a squirrel, but yeah, Mike would be good.
Mike and I both have Tourette's. I think you also have ADHD, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, same with me, but I believe you also have autism.
Yeah, that was a bit weird, that one, because I went for a sort of test. We couldn't get it on the NHS over here. I had to pay private. And the site, she was really struggling because at the end of it, she took ages. Because initially she said, "I'll get back to you in a couple of days with the diagnosis and my results and that." And she was taking weeks and weeks and weeks.
Wow.
And then she called me up and said, she said, if you'd have sat in front of me when you were 15 or 16 or 17, you would have an autism diagnosis. She said, but because you've gone on and hidden and adopted different ways around and adapted it subconsciously and consciously.
Yeah.
She said you've made it too difficult. You've hidden it too well.
You found ways to mask it as you've grown older.
Yeah,
Ah.
yeah. So she couldn't give me an official autism diagnosis, but she said, if, like I said, I'll just repeat, if you'd have come when you were younger, you wouldn't have learnt these ways around things, and you would have been diagnosed. So yes
That's
and no,
very
I am autistic.
interesting.
So technically,
Yeah.
I do have autism. It's just that
Yeah.
I left it too long and have sort of masked it too well.
Interesting. I actually never
Yeah.
heard of that. That's a crazy story. The point of my channel here is mainly Tourette's, but we can talk about the other neurodivergencies as well, because we obviously both deal with that on a daily basis.
Mm.
But I've seen a lot of your videos. I've kind of like binged your channel, both YouTube and TikTok last night, and I was watching, and it blew me away, your story, because it's unlike anything I've heard about. I mean, you'll be able to fill him in on when I stop talking, but I just found it really very interesting because like we said, you have Tourette's, but your story is very different than the typical Tourette's diagnosis. It's very different than my diagnosis. So I thought what we could do in this video is kind of compare and contrast our diagnoses per se, as well as kind of talk about, I know we both have different journeys in our accepting of our Tourette's, because we're both kind of on a different wavelength there, but I feel like we both have similar stories there as well. So if you want to tell the viewers your story, just the basic rundown of how you found out you had Tourette's.
Yeah, that is a funny one. Not funny, but
Yeah.
it is different. It is. I mean, I don't know how many people will be like this. Genuinely don't.
Yeah.
I was as a young boy, sort of as far back as I can remember. Clearly, I had twitches, I had movements, I was making noises, and I guess my parents at some point or other thought, we need to send him to a doctor and to see what's going on. So my only recollection of that kind of time was going into hospital. Uh, I think for sort of 3 or 4 days, something like that. So it was quite a lengthy stay,
Hmm.
um, and they just ran tests. I remember them running tests, and then I came out and with some medicine, with some drugs, some medicine, and my sister at the time was learning to be a nurse. So this was when I was 13, around
Okay.
13, something like that. So quite a long time ago. Um, and I remember my mum looking up this particular medication, and it was haloperidol,
Yeah. Okay.
and she read what it was for, and she said it's. And I remember this, and she said, I can't understand why. She said they're giving you medication for psychopaths,
Hmm.
and I was a kid.
Yep.
I knew what a psychopath was, and I thought, well, I'm not a psychopath. I know that, I'm not. But it scared me. That scared me, and I think I'm pretty sure I tried the meds.
Hmm.
Um, and I wasn't on them for very long, so I mustn't have liked them. Something must have. I just didn't like them. So that's all I remember. But
Okay.
nothing was said.
Right.
I was too young to sort of probe why the meds, things like that. So I just carried on my merry little way of growing up into a teenager and that.
Yeah.
And but all along from that point to this, clearly, I've always done twitches and movements, and I've always tried. I've always no, not tried. I've always pretended that no one can see them.
Yeah.
It's the most bizarre, ridiculous thing. You're
Hmm.
making these noises and movements, and you're fooling yourself that no one can hear or see you.
Yeah.
So and so I got to the point. Clearly, during that time growing up as well, the ADHD and the autism, I knew I was struggling. I did
Yeah.
way more than I should have been.
Hmm.
Um, and I I think I'm just I spoke to my mum a few months ago, because I just all of a sudden I remembered this hospital visit,
Yeah.
um, and I just rang her up, and I sort of said, do you remember that time when I went to hospital? And she said, oh yeah, yeah, I do. And I said, what was that about? What was, because and again, I remember that they said it was something to do with my nerves.
Hmm.
And that was all I was sort of told, that it was something to do with your nerves. And I said, well, what happened at the end of it? Was I diagnosed with anything? And she said, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. I said, well, what? She said, Tourette's. And
That's yeah.
honestly, every time I say that little bit of a story,
Hmm.
I get goosebumps. I
Yeah.
swear, my hairs are standing. I'm trembling a little bit,
I get it. I
and
get it.
it was just, you know, I was gobsmacked,
Yeah.
and I just thought, yeah. But I didn't say this to my mum because she's not particularly, she's elderly and she's not well, and
Hmm.
but why wouldn't you say,
Yeah.
you,
So
you
you
know
went your whole, how old are you now, if I can ask? Is that okay?
I'm 57.
You're 57. So you went that long until this past year without knowing.
Until 2 months ago. Yeah.
That is bizarre. So can I ask, when your mom did tell you, what did you feel in that moment? Was it like was it relief almost, or was it scary, or was it a mix of things?
It was, yeah, probably. It was relief. Looking
Yeah.
back, it was relief.
Yeah.
Because all this time I've grown up knowing I do these things,
Yeah.
but nobody else around me was doing them. Nothing like it.
Yeah.
Nowhere close.
And no one told
Um,
you the why, which is like the big
right.
thing. You must have, like, for me, going back to my story, I don't know how much you know about my story, but I was diagnosed at 12, and I was very much involved in my diagnostic process because my tics were pretty severe from 10 to 12, as well as in my teen years. But as soon as I went to my doctor, they told me firsthand. They also told my parents, because I know pediatrics still talk to your parents separately, which is probably what happened with your situation. But I was always very involved in knowing, so I never had to wonder why. I only had
Yeah.
maybe a year or so to wonder, like before my diagnosis, why am I this way? But I can't imagine like the turmoil mentally. It must be really challenging. And I just really look up to your story because it's something I've never really heard, because
No.
it's just,
No.
I can't imagine myself going that long without knowing. And I imagine the relief you must have felt must have been just like a weight off your shoulders.
It was huge, because I used to ask myself, why do I do this, why, and so I was constantly asking yourself questions of,
Hmm.
why do I do this, what is wrong with me,
Hmm.
and I was answering my questions wrong, because I was answering myself with things like, well, it's because you're not right in the head,
Hmm.
you're stupid,
Yeah.
all the negative things. So uh, that kind of concept of thinking, if you like,
Yeah.
has been walking alongside me up until 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And somebody once asked me, not long ago, and they said, well, surely you know how didn't you know you didn't have Tourette's when clearly you've got Tourette's? Well, that's because I thought Tourette's, again, up until sort of 2 3 months ago,
Hmm.
I thought Tourette's, I thought you had to swear.
Yeah.
I thought that was a key ingredient, if you like,
Yeah.
of having Tourette's. Otherwise, if you didn't swear, you just had little tics and twitches and whatever.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's why I never even thought about Tourette's,
Yeah.
because I don't swear. That's not what I make. I have vocal tics,
Hmm.
um, and but I don't swear, and
Hmm.
so that's why I didn't think anything about Tourette's. But also I couldn't. It's only the past 2 months I've even been able to say the word tick or twitch or Tourette's. Literally, I couldn't even say those words. It's had
Yeah.
such a detrimental
Yeah.
effect on me as an individual, not knowing, um, and I know it's kind of pointless, but I do think over these past few months, I've thought back and thought, what would I be like? What kind of person would I be like if, when I was a little boy, my parents had said, right, Mike, this is the deal, okay? You've got something called Tourette's. That's why you do these noises. That's why
Hmm.
you do these movements. Um, do you know what? We don't know a great deal about it, but that's what you've got, and we can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Just that 1 minute conversation, I believe, would have made me not a different person. It would have just stopped me from.
Maybe the shame.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, wow, the shame and humiliation. I
Yeah.
mean, a little analogy I came up with um, the other week, actually, and I feel like a bonsai tree,
Hmm.
and a bonsai tree is perfect. It's just a tiny, tiny, tiny little tree. Everything is it is what it is. It is a tree, but it's been purposely stunted, and
Oh,
it's not been allowed to grow
to
to its
like
full
flourish.
potential.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that analogy all of a sudden just went, and it just sort of stuck in my head, and
Yeah.
that nails it for me. It is of how I am now. you know, because I had been stunted
Hmm.
in that aspect of being able to sort of grow and mature and, like I said, flourish. And it's just not been, I've just not been able to do that.
Yeah, I think for our stories, while they do differ because I was told as a child and you weren't, I feel like I relate to being stunted per se or not flourishing because even though I was told, the amount of shame I felt for so long, I didn't tell people in my life besides like my family that I had Tourette's until 3 years ago. So I'm 25 now. I was maybe 21, 22 when I finally told people. But my whole life, I genuinely just was so humiliated, embarrassed because I knew of the stigma, which is why channels like ours are so important because we know we don't swear as Tics, even though it does happen, but it's not all the time.
Mm.
And I think it's interesting that our stories, even though they diverge, they also meet where we meet with that shame and we meet with, okay, so many people who have Tourette's or tic disorders in general just constantly feel like there's something wrong with us or there's something that is inherently bad about our disorder because of the stigma. And I guess what I'm trying to kind of ask is like, has the shame always been there even before knowing the Tourette's diagnosis? And has it changed since you've discovered that you do actually have Tourette's?
The shame, yeah, the shame has been there from you know, day dot. It's that shame, humiliation, because you know, I remember people, like say people, I said my sort of school friends when I was at primary school, you know, they'd laugh,
Yeah.
you know, and they'd sort of go, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that?" And of course, I'd stand there like a lemon, going, I don't know,
Yeah. And
you
the
know,
thing is, like, you didn't know.
no,
I did,
no,
even though I had Tourette's, I also was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, genuinely.
yeah. So it taught me, and this is another aspect of it, where I knew pretty quite early on I had to do something about it because people were mocking me, they were laughing. Well, you know, and so I knew pretty quick I couldn't let this carry on.
Hmm.
I had to sort of, you can't hide them. I keep using the word hide. You can't hide Tourette's, but somehow I did.
Yeah.
Um, and I used to, a lot of them, and they still are now. I've done dozens since we've been talking, and
Yeah.
they're internal. A lot of
Hmm.
them are internal, just tightening of muscles from
Yeah.
your toes to your calves to
No.
your shoulders, your back, you know. So
I
you
know
can sit.
exactly what you mean. It's
Do
the
you?
subtle tics that people don't see, but I
Yeah.
know that we've been sitting here and we've both been ticking, even though mine are a little bit more obvious. Like my stomach will tense, my butt will tense, like, and no one can see them. That's the tricky part because Tourette's isn't always like grandiose. You
No.
can have Tourette's and it can be, like you said, not internal, but just very subtle, where it's like
Yeah.
you could be tensing something and no one would ever see it, but you know, and you're like, oh, I wonder if anyone sees, you know? So it's, I always used to say I was so sneaky as a kid,
Yeah.
and very like, yeah, sneaky was the word because I would go to school and I would be ticking, but if I had a neck tick, I would just pretend I was like brushing my hair. Or like I would, if I was like stretching my arm, I would just be like, oh, I got an itch or something. Like I would just pretend that I was normal by like masking my ticks. So is that something you've
That's
experienced too?
that's amazing. I swear, honest to God, it's like meeting a, I don't know, it's like meeting a human being for the first time or something. That's exactly what that's exactly what I've always done, and that's what I
Yeah.
do. And when you said about the, I haven't got any hair, but I mean, if you know, if I wanted to, I'd sometimes sort of change position like
Oh yeah,
this,
exactly.
and
Exactly.
you know, who's going to see that? You just change your position, right? But
Hmm.
no, I'm not.
Hmm.
There's all sorts of different things going on.
Yeah.
Um, so and I get, you know, the vocal ones. I used to pretend that I'm singing or humming or just whistling a song and
Hmm.
all those kind of things.
Hmm.
And I guess that's why. I mean, so sometimes they're not. Sometimes, as you know, well, presuming you know, but you would know. Sometimes they are. You do get days where they are nasty. They are,
Oh yeah.
and sometimes, and again, I remember one particular day, just a few years ago, um, and I was having such a bad time. They were just going berserk. Um, and I remember being on the bed. I remember going upstairs to my bedroom, and it was during the daytime, and it was like I was having a seizure.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible. It actually scared me. But
No,
that luckily that's quite rare
it
to have
is,
them
yeah.
really bad. But the ADHD part's kicking in now, and I'm trying to sort of connect to your initial question.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
But yeah, that always I had to hide them. I had to do something. That was a conscious effort
Mm-hmm.
because also from, I mean, don't my parents, they're both still with us, and they're both utterly lovely human beings, and they only have my best interest at heart. Now, I believe, looking back, that the doctors might have said something like, "Look, let him get on with it. He'll grow out of it. Just
Yeah.
just 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 let him do his thing. Let him burn it out, and it'll all be good to go." Well,
Mm-hmm.
clearly that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't blame. I've no angst against them at all because
Yeah,
I
of course.
genuinely know that they were absolutely, you know,
Do you
how
think
long
that
ago was it?
perhaps, do you think, like, this is just a thought I had. Do you think perhaps they didn't tell you to protect you? Or do you think
Um,
they didn't wanna tell you at all? Because, like,
Initially,
I know the
no.
stigma, that's what, like, if my parents could have protected me in any way from the bullying and the stereotype and the stigma by not telling me, they might have, and that's just, like, a thought I had.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think initially, I think they listened to the doctors,
Mhm.
and they just thought, well, we'll just write it out.
Right.
We'll just. And when I spoke to my mum about this later on, after she told me that, yeah, I was diagnosed with Tourette's,
Mhm.
um, and she she said, but I thought you'd stop them.
Yeah.
I said, no, I was just I'm just hiding them too well. Clearly,
Yeah.
they don't stop. Well, mine didn't stop. She also presumed that 4 or 5 years later,
Mhm.
or whatever it was, because she didn't see me doing them as bad as I was when I was a child, she presumed that they had gone away. The doctors were right, and they had gone.
Yeah. The crazy thing I was gonna say is in the Tourette's community, I don't know how much you talk to other Tourette people or whatever, but there's a whole thing right now, well, not right now, but just in general going on where people who have been diagnosed and are in their adult years, because like maybe 21 plus who have Tourette's are kind of like banding together and being like, okay, our Tourette's didn't stop, but all of our doctors, even my doctor, told me you'll outgrow it by 20. So when I went to my doctor, my psychiatrist with my mom as a kid, I was maybe 14 when I went again, and he did say, Carly, you will definitely outgrow this, especially for women. They outgrow their tics more often than men, was like his thing. And he said, you will not have tics when you are in your 20s. Like, don't worry about it. And so
Wow.
little old me at 14 was like, yes, I don't have to deal with this my whole life. Like, I'm so excited to be 20. And then I hit 21 and my tics were at an all-time high. And I was like, okay, well, what's wrong with me? It almost became like, did the doctor lie? Like, am I like weirder than I thought? Like, what's the case? Because doctors all the time are telling their patients that they're going to outgrow their tics, but a lot of the time we don't. So
No,
it's interesting
no.
that your doctor also told or supposedly told your parents that, because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just it makes for me, it made me feel like such like I was like a failure almost, which is also kind of why at around that time I decided, you know what, I can't hide anymore if I'm gonna not grow out of these. Like my plan as a kid was, okay, I'm gonna grow out when I'm an adult so I can just be myself at 20. But then when I reached 21 and I was still ticking, I was like, I guess I have to actually embrace this and start to accept it, which is again what we were going to talk about, a little bit of acceptance, because
Yeah,
I mean for you it's so new, and I mean that in the way the diagnosis, like knowing, is new, but it
yeah.
has been with you for so long. So do you think now having like a term to what you're dealing with, like a label per se, do you think that that's going to help you with acceptance or hinder?
I know for a fact now it's going to help me
Good.
because 3 months ago, if for some weird reason you would have asked me that question, I'd have probably run out of the room because you'd actually mentioned the word Tourette's and tics
Mhm.
and things. So no, utterly, absolutely, because I've the like you said that I never thought I would be able to get anywhere near getting rid of the shame and the humiliation that I do still feel now because
Mhm.
it's only been a couple of months, but it was 100% only 2.5 months ago as well, and I actually feel quite bad because it was only the other week, and I was presuming that people like you, that are on, that you tell your story on YouTube and TikTok and other people, I'd wrongly presumed that you'd accepted Tourette's whenever you may have been diagnosed, or 12, 13, whatever,
Mhm.
and presumed that, well, Corley got presumed diagnosed when she was 12, 13, so she's got a decent foundation at that point. But that, and
And
I
that's
feel
not the
quite bad
case,
for
which is,
thinking that,
yeah,
because it's not true.
yeah,
Just because you were diagnosed at 12 or 13, 14, doesn't mean anything. It's still, you still felt that shame and humiliation,
mhm,
and I just thought that I wouldn't have felt that shame and humiliation if I was told at 13 I had it.
yeah,
But now I'm seeing that, well, actually, Mike, no, that, because of course you'd still feel shame and humiliation.
yeah,
That's not just going to magically disappear because you were told when you were 13 or 14.
yeah. I think it's interesting because you mentioned the bonsai tree, the stunted growth per se, like, and talking to you, I see a lot of similarities between our kind of feelings towards our Tourette's and our tics. Because for me, and we mentioned we both hide our tics, we both try to mask them. Like it's been something that we haven't both accepted. And for me, like I said, I finally started to, it's still not 100%, and I don't think it ever
Right.
will be, because it's kind of like something that I wish I didn't have to deal with, but I try to best foot forward and talk about it with other people. But it's
Mm.
really interesting because I honestly don't think, and this is just me talking as like what I've heard from you, I don't think knowing at 12 for you or knowing at that time would have changed much. You know what I mean? I know you think like, oh, I wonder what it would have changed, but I think both of our stories like have kind of like merged at the end. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
we both
yeah,
have felt that shame, even though I knew and you didn't. And we both hit our ticks, even though I knew and you didn't. It's just,
yeah,
honestly, at the end of the day, it comes down to the thing that the word Tourette's is just a label.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, we both are our own people. Our ticks don't define us, but they definitely have impacted our lives differently.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's really interesting to see that how a label, just a word, can really affect someone's whole life.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It, I think what's important for me to say to I'm saying it to you, and I'm saying it to everyone that's listening, to your viewers, and some of my viewers, that the the destruction that I feel it's caused as well, as me as an individual.
Mhm.
Now that's arguably, is it because I wasn't told? Maybe, maybe not. Um, and after talking to yourself, maybe not. It wouldn't have made very much difference, really. And so I just think it's like you said earlier on. It's a peculiar thing to have. It's for a neurotypical to sort of sit across from you, to meet someone like yourself or me or anyone with Tourette's, it's going to be unusual for them, especially if they don't know much about it. And that's why this is important. That's why this is important to me and to yourself. That's why you do what you do. It's important because it's our lives. This isn't we're not reading a book. This is our lives, and this is how it's affected us, and it's important. It's important that we've got to A, get it across how it's made us feel, and B, get it out there. So hopefully other people that are starting their Tourette's journey aren't gonna feel quite as bad as maybe we did when we were younger. Well, at least when I was younger. You're so young, but certainly when I was younger.
I agree completely. And I do think, I don't know if you've noticed as much, but I do think that the stigma and the stereotype is getting better. With a lot of people online, myself, yourself, a ton of other Tourette's content creators are posting and are really trying to show people this is what it is. It's not something to be afraid of. It's not something to be, it's not as taboo as the media makes it. And I think that's why sharing our stories, like you said, is so crucial, because it can help younger people who are starting their diagnosis process, like you said. If I would have had someone like you or someone like me when I was 12 to watch and look up to, I feel like I might not have had that much shame and kind of wanting to hide and just be in my shell all the time, because I do really regret a lot of my teen years just hiding and not being Carly. I really felt like such a shell of a human. I've used that before, because I was too afraid to accept the truth. Even though this is my truth, it might not be the best cards to have been dealt, but it is our truth.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very important. And when I was younger, there was a program on UK TV quite a while ago, must be 30, probably 40 years ago, something like that, about the Scottish lad who had Tourette's. It was a BBC documentary, and he swore, and he had Tourette's pretty bad, and everyone that sort of watched that program sort of found it funny, found it amusing. And so that's always stuck in my head as well, that if I make these similar movements to him, everyone is going to laugh. So it was never a great setup. But now, with all these different platforms, and they can see genuine people like you, and stars and celebrities and influencers who have Tourette's, and they can sit down like you're sitting down, going, "Yeah, this is what I do." It ain't nice. It ain't fun, and it's it's bloody well not easy, and this is never going to go away. This isn't going back to what you said. You were looking forward to when you were 20, waking up one day and it's like, yay, free of it. It ain't ever going to go away. It's just not. We're the ones that have got to live with it, and it's tough, and it is important that what you see is that's what we do. We can't. I did a little video a little while ago. The little things just seem to keep popping in my head, and I was sat in the car and I thought, what's it like to even relax? What is it to relax? You get this mental, have a nice bath and then get your warm sort of dressing gown on and get into bed and watch a film and just relax. No, you flap around in the bath and you slip out, and no. We'll never know what that means. It's tough.
I get it for sure. I did want to ask too, this is just something that popped in my head. When I was about 13, with my Tourette's came a lot of feelings of depression and a lot of anxiety and a lot of other mental health issues, you could say. I know Tourette's is neurological, but I was seeing a therapist, and she told me she dealt with a lot of people, young people and old people, who have Tourette's, and she told me that every single person that she knew with Tourette's had always reported, whether they knew or not that they had the disorder, they'd always reported that they felt so much different than their peers. Is that something that you relate to as well?
Fully,
Yeah.
fully. I mean the sort of um the percentage rate of people with Tourette's, I'm pretty sure 50% of them have ADHD.
Yeah.
It's something nuts like that, isn't it? And if it's not ADHD, it's going to be something else. So I think pretty much fundamentally, if you've got Tourette's, then you better hang on because you're going to have something else as well. And so, but yeah, absolutely. What I did, what I've always done is like I said, I think I said it earlier on, is I just imploded it. I've just imploded in on myself from a child and to an adult.
Mm-hmm.
I've always just sort of retracted and gone in myself and tried to keep as low a profile as possible, as I possibly could. And yeah, the ADHD part, it all gets very messy. I
Yeah.
I think I think I'm on the line of everything. I mean, my Tourette's aren't mild, but they're not severe. My ADHD, I think I'm like on I'm not crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, it's on the line. My autism is on the line. I'm always seem to be in the
Yeah.
gray area.
And there's always overlaps with everything. Like
Yeah,
Tourette's and
yeah,
ADHD overlap a lot with their symptoms and stuff. So it's interesting because I feel like being neurodivergent and you having all these disorders, they all kind of just like intermingle.
absolutely. And it can get messy. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
we've got messy heads anyway, which doesn't help. So I mean, but yeah, trying to, and I think that's what I do a lot as well. I try to figure things out too much, but I think that's what I think that element of it, I think, would have gone if I'd have known younger, if I'd have got diagnosed with ADHD, autism, and Tourette's when I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's probably gonna. I'm not gonna sort of magically been able to sort of deal. Well, that's what you would deal with things, but you know, it wouldn't have been any less. It would have still been the same
Hmm.
strength, if you like. But you'd have that knowledge, and that is that key word. It's knowledge. This is why you do this, and this is why you get confused at that. So don't get off your own back. That again is a phrase that I wanna that I'd like to get across, because I've been on my own back. There's no one bigger and heavier that's on my back apart from me. Apart from these past 2 months, I'm
Yeah.
really now starting to say to myself, "You've got Tourette's. That's why you do what you do. You have Tourette's, and the reason why you do such a thing is because you have ADHD, and the
Yeah.
reason why you can't communicate or you find social things difficult is because you've got some kind of autism,
Yeah.
and that's it. You know what I've now got to sort of do. It's just a damn shame I've got to the age of 57. I mean, that's just a real shame, and
Yeah.
I think it's a real shame to get to 57. And like I said, then that penny drop. But 57 is better than 87, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like it's never too late to start embracing it. And I was, like I said, 21 and I thought it was too late, but it's never too late. Honestly, like I'm so excited for your journey of you now knowing, and I'm excited to see where you go from here because I feel like your story can literally help so many people because it is so unique. And everyone with Tourette's has their own unique story and their own
Mm,
unique tics and
mm,
their own unique everything. But I feel like it's so important and crucial for you to share this with people because it can really, really help others, but can also help yourself. Because for me, posting on my YouTube channel for the past few years has genuinely changed my life. I've met so many other people like yourself with Tourette's who you can so like you said earlier, it feels like you're just talking to someone who you've known your whole life because they get it, you know? And that's what I hope your channel can become. So if you guys are watching this, please again go subscribe to Squirrels Wear Fur both on YouTube and TikTok because Mike's content is pivotal to learning about Tourette's. It's so important. So please go follow and subscribe to him. But I truly am so excited for your journey of acceptance, and I hope I can be there along the way, because honestly, it becomes such a beautiful thing when you're no longer living in fear of, oh, what movement am I gonna make? What sound am I gonna say today? You know, like just trying to accept it. And I know I'm not fully there yet, but I've definitely come further than I was. It's a beautiful thing to embrace neurodiversity, because people don't always see it as something that is normal or something that is admirable, but our brains are wired differently. And I feel like there's so many things for me specifically, I don't know about for you, but I'll ask you, that have changed with my neurodiversity. I've become so much more creative. I've become so much more empathetic. Like there are strengths that come with it. And I wonder, do you have any strengths that you've noted that have kind of come with that for you? Or have you
Um,
not really noticed it yet? I feel like you will eventually notice.
yeah, it's going to sound a bit negative, but no. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, clearly we all have strengths, but
Yeah.
as far as this particular things, no. I mean,
Yeah.
actually, let me think about it for a minute. I guess I have, because I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So you
And that's
know,
a big
like,
step.
yeah. So whereas before I just said earlier on about me shying away from
Yeah.
everyone and just imploding, this isn't that. You know, it is, and it's it's I can't help anyone. I can't help anyone at all unless I've fully helped and accepted, you know, what I am and why I do these things. And like I said, I'm not fully accepted it because it's way too soon, but
Yeah.
it's absolutely started.
Yeah.
I can just feel it. It has that road to acceptance is well underway proper.
That's awesome. I'm so proud of you. I know it can be really challenging. And I know it must have been like such a whirlwind these past 2 months. And like I said, I've seen your content. I know a little bit of how you've been feeling, but it's just, again, I am so looking forward to seeing more content from you and seeing where this journey takes you, and hopefully you becoming an even greater advocate for younger people, older people, people alike, you know, because it's important to have people like us who don't necessarily have the coprolalia, do have the subtle tics, because it's important to represent all sides of Tourette's. You know how there's different cases, there's different severity levels, it's different for everyone. So it's important to
Yeah.
see cases like ours where we're able to sit and have conversations without having our tics really disrupt as that much. And it's important to showcase all sides of Tourette's, like I said. And I feel like this video that we've done today will help a lot of people. I truly believe.
I really hope so, and
Yeah.
I think it is important what you just said then about the severity of Tourette's. It doesn't mean, you know, I don't want it'd be pretty cool to sort of get it across to people that Tourette's doesn't have to be severe.
Yeah.
And so, you know, how many people are out there now, like right now, with Tourette's, but because they're looking at these sort of influencers and famous people with Tourette's, and they're thinking, well, I no, I'm not that bad. I just do these, but they still have Tourette's, and so that again will cause them problems as they're growing up, because they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They're
Hmm.
thinking, well, no, I've not got Tourette's. Well,
Hmm.
actually, you know, they might have Tourette's. So it
Yeah.
doesn't always have to be loud and swearing, and it can be subtle, and especially when they're aware of it, and they can, or well, they're able to internalize it, if that's the right word, and just do those internal type movements and just
Hmm.
kind of hide it from people. And
Yeah.
they're not hiding, yeah, they're hiding it from people, but they're hiding it from themselves, and that's what they don't want to do.
Yeah. I did want to say too, like for me, I know I didn't talk about this necessarily, but our similarities too with when I was first diagnosed, I went on Google and I typed in what is Tourette's, because I didn't really know much about it. And I saw all sorts of memes about swearing And like I said, I didn't swear either. So I automatically was like, I don't have this. There's no way. There's literally no way. And I said, if I do have this, am I going to start swearing? Like I had zero idea, which is why
Mm,
it's so important to educate. And like you were saying, showing the different severity levels, because
mm,
people could watch this and they could say, neither of you have Tourette's because you're being very still. And like, I get those comments all the time, especially because now I'm so medicated. Um, but that's not the case. Like, it's
no,
important to show, especially to young people who may feel a little bit different, who may have subtle tics or just the odd tic here and there, that you are valid too. Everyone with Tourette's is valid in their own way. And it's important to get that across to literally everyone, because I feel like nowadays on social media, it's very much the severe cases are prevalent.
yeah, yeah,
And
sure.
while that is very true, there can also be cases more like ours where on a lot of the days we're pretty chill. Other days I have a lot more severe tics, but you know what I mean? Like it's a waxing and waning disorder. So
Yeah,
it's important to showcase that, and I'm really glad we were able
absolutely,
to do that, because not a lot of influencers out there are super subtle. So it's important to showcase that too.
definitely. I agree with
Hmm.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining me on this Ticking Together video, this little interview. It was so wonderful to have you on my channel. I'm so grateful that you were here and shared your story. I think it will help a lot of people. Again, please go follow on TikTok and subscribe on YouTube. I will link the channels in the description as well as on the screen here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. If you'd like to see more videos with Mike and I, please leave a comment and let us know what you want us to talk about. I'm sure he would love to come back, and I'd love to have him back. So
absolutely.
yes, thank you guys so much. It was great to see you. As always, we are learning together, we're laughing together, and we're ticking together. Bye. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and learned something. Again, thank you so much to Mike for joining me here at Ticking Together and having this conversation with me. It means so much to advocate with you, and I'm so grateful that you came on my channel. If you guys liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below saying hi, letting me know what you would like to see in future videos, or letting me know if you'd like to see more interviews with other people with Tourette's. I would love to start doing that. So if you have Tourette's or tic disorder and you would like to be in a video with me, shoot me a DM. I'd love to hear from you. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell to stay tuned to all of my content here at Ticking Together. The goal here is to advocate, educate, and break the stigma. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we are learning together, we're laughing together, and we're ticking together. Bye!